It was built in 1706 and has a shape of U. It's the oldest part of the institute, with 350 years old, and it also the original set of the building that formed it. It goes out of the street and it has two levels. This part was called Casa Palacio and belongs to the Conde Buenavista. In this plan on both sides we can see it. It has closed patios, called loggias. On the second floor it has open terrace with a square shape. On the third floor it has a shape of U terrace. From one of the balconies, you can see all the buildings of San Felipe Neri Church, the study house, the crypt, the drawing rooms, and you can also see the Garden of the Philippines.
This interior courtyard is called Patio de Columnas, which is a direct translation to its courtyard of columns. It has Tuscan marble columns and the arches that they support, and since there are so many columns, it's called Patio de Columnas.
We are in front of this classroom, which was made to honor Severo Ochoa. Severo Ochoa enrolled at Gaona in 1915. He studied here, and when he was older, he discovered the genetic code, and for that he won a Nobel Prize in Medicine. There were up to 400 specimens of stuffed animals. There are two specimens here, and the most of them are in the sister school called Martiricos. Currently, we don't use this classroom to study, because it's more like a mini museum. And last but not least, the skeleton is totally real and three complex bodies form it.
Caminando hacia el arco. Through this corridor, we get to the arch of the connects of the house of study with Baltazar Guerrero's house. The coat of arms of the Count of Buenavista are carved on some doors. The ancient school archives are located inside the room of nautical studies, which documents dating back to 18th century.
In the 18th century, Malaga was a very important commercial city, but it did not have a nautical school, and it could not trade with America. Only Cadiz and Sevilla did. Thanks to José de Galvez, Malaga was able to trade with America and have a nautical school. That was opened in Malaga at the end of the 18th century in the Plaza La Constitución. When the school was opened in 1846 with this boat, the students learned the handling of a boat. At the end of the nautical studies, they went on a trip to America or India, and when they came back, they took an exam to be ship captains.
Patio de la Aguacuate. It is here that we can appreciate the different buildings that make up our school. Look, for example, at the assembly room, which was built in the 1968, and look now at the other building dating back to the 18th century. The pedestal sun with the pointers are next to the library of the El Retiro estate, which was owned by the Count of Buenavista.
Long ago, this place we are standing on used to be a splendid botanic garden, a small forest whose last witness is the avocado tree. From here, we see the U-shaped patio with two open spaces on the sides and a simple fountain in the center. The botanic garden was once home to a different exotic species of plants and trees, but it started to disappear during the 20th century. These are the original stars of the garden, which together with the avocado tree are the only survivors of.
We have just crossed the narrow corridor, passing under the old dining room of the community of the Philippians, which later had other uses. In this area are the old kitchens, the technology room, and the pantries, the computer room. This area was built in 1797 and has a right to Rabello Street. One of the sides of this patio corresponds to the sacristy of the Church of San Felipe. On a lower ground, on a sort of basement, we find the crypt. It was not a burial ground, but a storage room that used to be rented to salesmen back in the 18th century. Today, it's used for training tours and cultural activities. In this room, the model boat for nautical teaching appeared, and is currently in the nautical classroom.
The Spanish Civil War impacted our school as some teachers were exiled, others feared there were murder in the months of the conflicts. The most important consequence after the end of the wars were the end of mixed education. Thus, two schools were created sharing the same buildings but without sharing the same classes. During the Spanish Civil War, they forbade mixed education. That's what boys and girls had to study separately. Boys used to have the principal courtyard and the girls used to have the downstairs courtyard and the rest of the classrooms. The female area was called Vicente Espinel and the male area was called Nuestra Señora de la Victoria. After a while, they moved mail area to another place, and also the Natural Museum, which have a few stuffed animals that's still in the other school. Few years later, the mixed education was returned.